Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Conversations with an Investor. So we're going to discuss mindset. If you've been following along on my social media channels, you'll have seen our mindset meetup. One of the things I would say to you is that have you ever had a situation where you just feel like you're constantly spinning your wheels, you can't get out of the blocks, you seem to think that you keep going high and you keep going low and you don't seem to be getting anywhere? Or maybe you have had enough. Maybe you just think, what's the point in trying? Why give it the effort? Why apply the time? Or maybe you're doing something like this where you're comparing everyone else's life that appears to be going in a straight line all the way up. They just up, like there's no tomorrow. And your life doesn't look like that. Maybe your life looks like it goes high and low and high and low and high and low. And you ask yourself the question, well, why is it me? Like, why do I not get the smooth ride to the top? Or maybe you keep trying to get to the next level and keep trying to improve, but you keep hitting these obstacles all the way up. Well, if that sounds familiar, I've got some news for you. That the path to the next level is not in a straight line. So it will contain ups and downs. And when you start to understand those ups and downs, what you'll realize is that you maybe have heard the expression, you start to go with the flow. And the reason that you go with the flow is that when you understand the nature of things, that they don't go in a straight line, that nothing in the universe is a straight line, and things do have this peaks and troughs. When you start to anticipate the peaks and troughs, what you can do is you can maximize the peaks and minimize the troughs. And that's the whole idea of it. And one of the greatest tools that you can learn how to use is something called the emotional triangle. And this is not my own information. This isn't something I've come up with. It has been something that's been used in the past by some of the greats in mindset. Wayne Dyer, for one, Jim Rohn, who was the famous teacher of Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins himself, all relate to this information. And what the emotional triangle is understanding how the apparatus in your mind works. And what I mean by the apparatus is just like any piece of machinery, whatever you feed into it, you will get something out of it. And depending on what you put in will depend on what you get out. You've maybe heard of that expression, you only get back what you put in. Well, we're going to go a little further on that, because that might be true in the physical sense, but what happens on the mental sense? What happens inside? And that's what we want to delve into. So if you have a look up on screen, you're going to see here now the emotional triangle. An emotional triangle looks like this. It looks similar to a fire triangle, and the fire triangle will be next to it. If you look at the screen now, you will see the triangle, and a fire triangle has three parts. It has, to be able to light a fire, you need fuel, you need oxygen, and you need heat. So to get a result, you need three things. And the fire triangle describes that. I'm sure you've seen that if you've done any bushcraft or any survival stuff, maybe you were in the Cubs, or maybe even learned it at school, because it was one of the things that was taught there. And the emotional triangle looks very, very similar to that. So keeping in mind, if you want a result, you need three things. And these three things are as follows. And for the listeners, I'll go run through and describe the triangle, who maybe can't see the screen. So at the very, very top of the triangle is your thoughts and your focus. So your thoughts and your focus is the very primary reason that sets this off. So whatever you focus on, your energy flows to. And there's a famous expression, wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. So that's the starting point. Sometimes you get a chicken and egg scenario, and what came first? Was it the chicken? Was it the egg? It's hard to work out. Like, this one isn't. It's whatever you think about is where it starts. And whatever you focus on will lead to the next part of the triangle. So the next part of the triangle is feelings. So whatever you have as a thought, that will engage a feeling, how you feel about that. And those feelings are huge drivers, because you hear people that were driven by emotion. It got them past the finish line. They had nothing left, but it was only their emotions to keep them going. These things are powerful, very, very powerful. And when you can use these emotions to your advantage, you have an incredible resource. But like anything in life, it has another side. So if you use these things, these feelings, and you pick the wrong ones, then they can go against you. And then that will determine the next part of the triangle which completes it, which is your actions. So you could have inaction, or you could take massive action. You could feel lethargic or down, or you could feel fired up and ready to go. And that would relate in what action you take. And then you go back to whatever it is, and it will go through your thoughts and focus, and then back to your feelings. Then that will then lead to your action. That will go back to your thoughts and focus. So what I think we would do here today is we're going to go through an example of both sides. So for the purpose of being able to see how this apparatus works, what we're going to do, first of all, is run through the negative. So when you use this thing, this apparatus that's within us all, when you use it to go against you, what does that look like? So let's start with the focus and thoughts. Right, things aren't going your way, everything's going wrong, it's a total disaster. You think, why is it that I can't get any luck? Why does it always go against me? Why can I never seem to get out the bit? Why can things not just be straightforward? Why are other people getting these results? And you start to think about all the reasons why it's bad. And that then leads to a feeling. So the next part of the triangle is a feeling. What do you feel about that? So you feel bad, or you can feel helpless, disappointed, depression, desperation, a sense of failure. And those feelings are strong, really, really strong. And they probably change your physiology. So you probably feel that you notice that your shoulders would drip down and your head would sink. And you probably look a bit tired and a bit dishevelled or a bit scrumpled up. And you would notice your voice probably tails off, and you sound like you just don't really have anything, no energy. And then your action, because you feel like that and your body's changes, is that you think, well, there's probably not any point in trying. And then what happens next is we go back to the top of the triangle, which is, what do you think about that? Well, you think about, I don't get any luck. What is the point in trying? Why am I even doing this? Why is it everybody gets the luck and not me? And then you have another feeling which comes on from there, which is even further down the spiral. The downward spiral's got a name for a reason, because you are spiraling down the way, because your feelings, you feel even worse. You feel like you're useless or hopeless, or you lack the self-belief, or you're attacking your self-value, or you're screaming at yourself for doubt, the doubt that you should have never bothered doing this in the first place. And then that leads to an action where you feel completely hamstrung, you feel completely hopeless, and you can feel completely demoralised. So you think, I'm not doing anything. So you felt subdued before, and you probably feel even worse. And you feel like, what is the point? And you'll notice someone's body, you'll notice these things changing within them. So you go through the next round of focus, feelings, action. What does that look like? So you go, I feel totally helpless, and there seems to be no way out, and I can't do anything. And then you feel even more worse than you did before. You feel even more disconnected. You feel even more despondent. And that makes you feel totally helpless and now totally desperate. And then your action is, you probably want to seek a bit of relief. And that's why you get people that turn to things to get a bit of relief, whether it be, alcohol or drugs or any number of things, just to ease the pain, that pain that they feel that came from those thoughts. And that thoughts are consuming them, and they can't even take any action to get out of the situation that they're in. So they just seek a reprieve, and the action is that they lead themselves there. And then if you look at the screen, you'll see now that thought that started the downward spiral that led to a feeling that led to the further next level down in the spiral. And then that led to an action or an inaction, which then further caused the speed of the spiral to go down and further down and further down. And that's how you use this apparatus that's within you, this mechanism that's in you, where you fed the machine some negative thoughts and some negative focus. And that's going to give you negative feelings and emotions that have made you feel bad, and emotions that have made you question yourself and doubt yourself. And you wonder why people get depressed. Because they do. They get depressed. They didn't arrive. They weren't born that way. It didn't show up like oh look, I've caught depression. what happens is something took place, and if you do this spiral long enough and don't interrupt that pattern, you'll end up there. And the darkest thing about depression is that it feels like there's no bottom. The spiral will never end. And that's what daunts people as they go. They know that it's not as bad as it can get because they know it can get much worse, because the spiral keeps picking up and it keeps getting faster and faster and faster. And when you speak to anyone that's there, you can see the bleakness on their face by the way they sound and how despondent they feel. So let's see what the other side looks like. Imagine that you use this apparatus. Now that you've essentially been handed the instruction manual of how to use this machinery, this input system that will change your feelings and your actions, you decide, hey, look, I'm going to make a focused effort to get these things right. I want the result and I will do what it takes to get there. So let me change my thoughts. Let me direct my focus on what it should be. And it begins. And you might do something like this. So let's do another couple of rounds of using this machine, this system that's within you. And let's apply the principles that we now know, that we've understood, that if I change what I think about and I focus on what it is that I'm looking to get or to work towards, or the result that I would like, let's see what that does to my feelings and actions. So let's start. So if you had something and it's all going wrong, because you'll get people say, well, yeah, it's all going great. Well, let's keep with it. Let's do the positive thing on the thing that's going wrong and see what it ends up. So we start with what would you focus on? You focus on, right, what can I do to change my result? What tweaks can I make to my approach to get to the outcome that I want? Now, first of all, off the bat, that's a really powerful question, because what you've done there is you've not backed yourself into a corner. You're not describing that you're helpless, and you're not describing that it's out with your control. What you are saying is, what can I do? Which is a great place to start. And it starts that thinking process where you think, well, what could I possibly do that would get me a better result? Who could I speak to? Who's good at what I do? Who's overcame this in the past? What did they do? How did they handle it? Who do I know that I could get advice from? How could I change my state? How could I change what this means to me? Right, let me look at that. And what happens is you start to brainstorm ideas, and you feel, what would you feel? You would feel that you're creating a solution to the problem. You'd feel quite creative, or you might feel compelled to take action because you feel like there's momentum here that you can change and influence what's going on. And you might feel that you're adaptive, so you're ready to adapt and adjust, because that's what great adventurers do. They don't have a pre-planned route that they stick to. They just adapt to what comes up. And if an obstacle hits them, then they just find a way around it. That's the adventurous spirit. You might feel a sense of hope because, hey, look, things happen and it didn't go as I planned, but I'm hopeful that I can keep going towards the result and the outcome that I'm looking for. And you might feel even more focused because you think, hey, look, I still know what I'm aiming towards. I still know what I'm looking to do, and I just need to adjust course. So these feelings will drive you to do what? They'll drive you to take action. What does that action, what would that action be? Will it make you move? You'd be ready because you know what you're working towards. So you've got this goal or this outcome that you're looking for, and it's still within reach. You're just adjusting course. You might start to think outside the box. So you start to seek advice from places that you never thought of before. You might reach out to people who are very, very good at this scenario or outcome that you face, and you may seek their advice. You may be networking and speaking to people that you never thought you'd be speaking to before. So as a first round of going through the focus to the feelings to the actions, that's pretty strong, very, very strong. And one thing that you'll notice is that you probably have your shoulders back because you're ready for action, and your head will be held up a little bit higher, and you will just feel that you stand a little bit taller and that you're ready to move. Because remember, what we understand is that 7% of the words that you use, 38% is the way in which you say it, 55% of it is your body language. So your body language will change as you're thoughts and focus determine how you feel, which will make you feel better, and that will show up in your body. And as you go into round 2, you're back to the top of the triangle. So you go back to, at the top, focus and thoughts. So as you've got this situation unfolding, you might start to have networked, and you might have thought outside the box and came up with some solutions, and you might have looked at some people that have overcame this hurdle in the past, and you might think, well, I'm feeling a bit of momentum and progress, and I can still get there. I feel that I can still get this outcome. It's within reach. And you start to switch up the gear. You're like, hey, look, I'm changing my approach. And these thoughts are all building a sense of energy, and that energy is progress. So when you feel progress, what is the feelings that you get? You'll probably feel quite happy that a lot of people would have got stuck and you haven't. You'll feel positive because you could have been negative, but you found a way. You'll feel a sense of adventure because that's what adventure's about. It's about overcoming and adapting a changeable scenario. And that adventure makes you feel good. I mean, that's what we all loved doing as kids, being involved in an adventure and not knowing what was around the corner and then handling it, whatever that may be. You probably feel a sense of pride. You'll feel proud of yourself because these are the things that you could have easily just copped out on, but you never. You stood up and you thought of a way around it and you focused on what you could do. And that made you feel quite good, and you feel propelled and driven, and you feel like you're growing and developing. And isn't that what it's all about? And that will give you a sense of you being in control of your destiny. So feeling that you're not helpless is feeling that you have a part to play in it, that there's an element that you can control, and that will feel very, very reassuring. And then what actions would that lead you on to? Well, the actions that you would probably feel is you want to go harder and you're ready to move. And as this progress, you don't want to let up because the momentum is strong and you want to keep pushing it, and you probably feel even more focused and you've a clearer sense of where you're going. You have clarity. And how easy are things when you have clarity, because you're so focused and it's so clear in your mind that the outcome isn't even a consideration that it won't be there. The outcome is a formality. And when you have that, you can be more precise in what you do. And when you are more precise in what you do, then you are more efficient, you're more disciplined, you're more dedicated, and you will find it easier and faster to get to the outcome that you look for. And this is the power of the apparatus that you've got within us. And what you'll see now, as we put up on screen, is that we have essentially 2 ways to look at it. So on the screen, you're going to see the thoughts that begin with the ones that can push you down, that we done first, and they will go down the way. So whatever you put into that thought and focus will start to push you down. It'll send the spiral off. And however quickly you go through the triangle, thoughts, feelings, action, thoughts, feelings, action, thoughts, feelings, action, you will speed up and accelerate that downward spiral. And unless you interrupt that thought pattern, remember, it's the thoughts first, interrupt that, you can stop the spiral. And if you find yourself stopping the spiral, do you know what the next step is? If you want to have a look at the one that goes up the way, well, you put in a better thought. Guess what that does? You've got it. It gives you a better feeling. When you have a better feeling, guess what that does? You take a better action. And when you take better actions, what do you think you focus on? You focus on what that's doing to you. How do you feel about that? And you watch as the spiral starts to go up. And that is how you master your emotions. That is as simply as how you do it. Now, we had a great podcast with Nathan, who came on, and I explained to him the purposes of reaching for higher highs and higher lows. So for those of you that maybe that isn't quite clear what that is, I thought I'd do an explanation, because if someone explained that to me, a few years ago, I'm not sure I'd have got it either. So let me do a little bit of an explanation here. Hopefully I do a good enough job that for the listeners, they can pick that up. And if you care to watch this in video, check it out. This will be on screen. So the first thing is people, they expect that life just goes up like a straight line. They think that it's just a case of everybody starts, has an idea and goes straight up. And it doesn't. What it actually does is it has peaks and troughs, it has highs and lows. So for the people that feel that they never get anywhere, their high is always the same high. So they have a high and they have the same low, and they have the same high and they have the same low. So that the height of each high doesn't get any higher, right? It's just, if you imagine the top of a wave, it gets to a certain height and it goes down. And then the top of the next wave is the same height as the previous wave and it goes down. And then the next wave and so on. And it's just the same highs and the same lows. And what happens is it becomes mundane because they're trying all this stuff and it's just not changing. The high's the same, the low's the same. And they feel stuck in a rut because nothing's progressing. And you get people that are on a downward spiral. And how would their graph look like? What would that look like? Well, it would look like they would have a high, and then they would have a steep low, and then have a lower high, which means that the wave wouldn't go back to the height of the previous one. It would be a lower high, and then it would go way further down than the previous low, and then it would go to a lower high. So you can see it's just like downward steps. It goes down and down and down and down and down. And that's the downward spiral. That's people that are on a slippery slope, or they're making bad choices, or they're nose diving. That's what's happening there. They are making lower highs and lower lows. And what do you get? One of the worst ones that I've seen that I think, for people that try this, I mean, I understand why they want it, but it's a real difficult thing to see, is they go, I just want an easy life. And what they do is they want to reduce the height. They don't like the high or the low. They don't like the volatility. They don't like this high, low, high, low, high, low. So they want an easy life. They'll say, I just want an easy life. And what they do is they take out the high and make it lower, and they take out the low and make it higher. And it means that their wave looks like a tiny wave. And they just have a life that they feel unhappy with, because there's no adventure there. There's no spirit. They're not progressing. So what is the answer? Right? What should you seek? Right? So we know that it doesn't go in a straight line. We know that we don't want a lower high and a higher low, because that's a downward. That looks like you're just going down on a downward spiral. You're just, in a tailspin. And you don't want to take out the movement of that high and that low, because that makes you have a life that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, and you just feel like there's no adventure. Well, the way to do it is what we described to Nathan, and he got it straight away, because he knew exactly what I meant with his challenges, is that you want to have the wave is high, and then it goes low, and then on the next it goes even higher than the previous high, and then on the next low it goes higher than the previous low, and then it goes higher again, and then a lower high, and then higher again, and a lower high, a higher low, sorry. So we've got higher high, higher low, and then the next wave is even higher high, and then it goes above the previous low. And what you get is an upward progression, where it's like the steps going up the way, and that's called progress. It's called growth. Now, what I would suggest that you do there is that when you get a low, what's happening is you need to adjust your pattern, whatever it is that you're doing, and there's a lesson in there that you can tweak. So that might be becoming more efficient, becoming more disciplined, or becoming more structured, or maybe there's something that you need to add in, or maybe there's something you're doing that's taken away from your progress. There'll be a lesson in there, and imagine it's like a little gem. And at the bottom of that low, you get to keep that gem as long as you learn the lesson. And there's a lesson in each one of those. And if you learn the lesson of that low, guess what happens? You go to a higher high. And then the next time, when you get the low, what happens then? You learn the gem, you collect the gem, it's yours to keep, you learn from it, and you get a higher high. If you do this often enough, what you get very good at is that you will get a really long high and a very short low, and a really long high and a very short low, and you get a really long high and a really short low. And what you're doing there is you're prolonging the highs, and you're so efficient at learning and adapting and adjusting on the low that they remain for a short period of time. You get straight back on the up. And that's why you get people that rise like stars, because what they're doing there is they have cracked the understanding of their emotional mastery. So let's summarize what they've done. They have understood that your thoughts and focus will determine your outcomes, which will predominantly come from your thoughts and focus will drive your feelings, and your feelings will drive you incredibly well or incredibly poorly, dependent on which emotions you create with your thoughts and focus. And then that will drive your actions, which will then create the next batch of thoughts, which will then determine your focus, which will drive you towards even stronger emotions, which will then drive the actions, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What they've done is they've understood that they focus on the right things and think about the things that are going to get them there. And then the second part of what they do is they know that to expect lows, and that those lows have a lesson in there. And what you want to do is learn that lesson as quickly as possible so that you can get back to the higher high. And with that, they can rise for the whole of their lifetime to get to wherever it is that they desire, because they understand the apparatus, and it's within us all. This is the keys to getting the most out of life. And it's crazy because there is untold amount of people that have described this in many different stories, in many different ways, because they understand how it works. And what they're describing is, hey, look, I was just like you. I was a normal dude. I was a normal guy. I was a normal girl. This is what I had this dream, I had this idea, or I kept making this same mistake. And I wondered to myself, how do I stop doing this? How do I get a better result? And here's what I learned. And I did this, and I did this, and I did this. And they all tell a similar tale. It's all a description of this wonderful apparatus that we have in us all. And you have the power to use that within you. And if you learn and apply this, you will get massive results almost instantly. So if you like this sort of stuff and you want to be part of a community, then consider coming along to my mindset coaching community. We've got all the classroom and calls that we do weekly on school. You can visit the link and join in the fun. We also have a community chat. So if you want to be around people that are looking for the same things in life as you are, because you might be out there just now and you might have a dream or an aspiration that the people around you might not share that same enthusiasm. They might have limiting beliefs, and they might share those limiting beliefs with you, where they go say, look, I don't think you should go for that, or I think that that's a bit pie in the sky, or people like us don't get that, right? But they're the people that you're around. How do you get around people that will believe in back that dream, that goal? Where do you go? Will you get yourself in a community of people that know what it's like to reach for their goals and their dreams? Because your goals and dreams never take a day off. And the people that will feel the same energy that you feel will all understand. And if you want to be around those types of people that are striving for a better version of themselves, then there's no better place to be. And it doesn't matter if you're, a single mum who's down on her luck, that's had a rough roller coaster of a ride and is wanting to make massive change to get her life on track, or you are the captain of industry smashing it out the park all the time. This apparatus, this thing is in us all. And if you seek a better life and you want better results and you want to feel good about what you're doing, then this is how to do it. And if you want to find out more, come and join us over there. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Conversations with an Investor. And from me this week, that is a wrap.